Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Halloween time is here. That's right, we're talking the 2018 version of Halloween on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Haddonfield, Illinois. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. Now, we're going to unpack all the gory details of the rebootiquel known as Halloween 2018 in the hopes that a babysitter's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we could make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person that I trust, that if I get stuck in a bus that has crashed, that she will make sure that her young son will shoot me accidentally. The one and only Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing, Gina?
Oh, happy almost Halloween, Patrick.
Happy almost Halloween, Gina.
I thought you were going to say that I was the one person you could trust to stop you from being yanked down on top of onto a metal fence in a horrible death.
Well, listen, if we're talking horrible deaths, this movie is chock full of them. There's an overflowing giving cup of horrible death in this movie. There's no lack for it.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, if you came away from watching the original Halloween thinking, that was not bloody at all, because it wasn't, you will be more than compensated for in this movie. That's
absolutely true. Now, before we go any further, there's a couple things we should get out of the way. I just want to assure you, Gina, we are alone. We don't have a special guest this week.
Shit. We've got to juggle this by ourselves.
There's zero backup here. So we are just going on this rogue, as they call it. The second thing is, if you are a member of our audience and have downloaded this and have not seen Halloween, which is entirely possible, first of all, thank you for downloading us. Secondly, hit pause. Go see Halloween. It's worth your time and effort. And then come back to us, because we are going to spoil the living hell out of this thing, because I don't think there's any other way to talk about it other than to get into the details. Do you agree, Gina?
Yeah. I mean, unless you want to say, like, when this thing happens to character B, that was really cool, and that's just going to sound a little forced and awkward.
I could barely get past that second level of algebra. I'm not assigning people, number amounts or letter grades or anything like that.
I'm just not going to be able to keep straight which one is which.
No. I can barely keep straight which one is which, and I have written down their names.
Yeah, so, I had to open up the Wikipedia page because I realized I had already forgotten Judy Greer's character's name.
Yes, I had to keep looking it up.
It's Karen, by the way.
It's Karen. It's Karen.
That's not it. That's not a. Let me just say this out of the way. That's not a reflection on my feelings for the movie itself. Should we get that out of the way, or should we save that for the end?
Let's do a quick sort of plot recap, and then maybe some broad strokes, and then we can get into the meat of it. Just to put everyone in the mindset of having just seen the film, the movie discounts all of the Halloweens that have come between the 1978 original and this one. You could basically call this H40, because H20 doesn't exist. Neither does Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween 6, H2O, Resurrection, or any of the zombie Halloweens, which are also Halloween and Halloween 2.
Yeah, so, that means no twist where Michael and Laurie are siblings.
Yes.
Nothing where Michael Myers is part of the cult of Thorn. Laurie Strode is not dead. And Michael Myers did not have a white trash childhood with a stripper mom where he was mercilessly bullied.
No one calls anyone any gay slurs. There is not any scene in which a guy who has cleaned his bedpan for the past 20 years begs for his life before having his skull crushed. Listen, if you like the zombie Halloweens, it's quite all right. Everyone should like what they like. I liked the second one okay. I very much disliked everything I saw in the first zombie one. And I would go out on a limb as to say this might be the best Halloween sequel, but that could change.
Well, I mean, that isn't part 3. Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Yes, I mean, part 3 is unto itself. It's basically Season of the Witch. I think the world would have been a better place if every Halloween we got a crazy new horror movie out of the Halloween franchise, and it was just an anthology. Oh my God, the world would be so much better. But that didn't happen because people were wieners, and we were left with this.
Goddamn wieners, all of them.
Yeah, fucking wieners. There's so many wieners. The worst kind of wieners, too. Greasy, flaccid, rubbery, overcooked.
Not all beef. We don't know what they're made out of.
No, there's
probably lips and anuses.
And listen, there's a lot of good meat on a pig's face. Let's not discount that. So what we come to in this film is that since the events of the original movie, Michael Myers has been institutionalized back in Smith's Grove, and I guess they've fixed the electricity. And Laurie Strode has obviously gone through hell and a half. She has not fully recovered mentally from the stress of this incident. It has caused damage in her life. She has been married twice. She's had one kid who's taken away from her at age 12 that ends up being Karen, played by Judy Greer, and it is an intense strain on their relationship. And in the meantime, 40 years later, a pair of podcasters are summoned to Smith's Grove by a new crazy doctor of Michael Myers, who figures if you stand in the middle of a checkerboard outdoor space and yell, "Can you feel this mask?" that'll finally break through, break the ice.
That's fairly early on in the movie, and at that point I was like, oh, I don't know. I have a couple issues with that plot angle, in that it's a little modern angle by having podcasters investigating or doing a story on the Michael Myers case, which apparently means they can just walk right into the courthouse or the DA's office and says, hey, can you give me the biggest piece of evidence in this case? They just have the mask. They have the mask from 40 years ago, and they're just going to give it to this podcaster. I mean, I'm a podcaster. I would not trust me to be given evidence in a multiple murder case. But these podcasters, this kind of officious British guy and his lady friend, he just kind of walks right up to this guy and starts taunting him with this mask, and the doctor's kind of just, go ahead, let him. Let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens.
Come on. I mean, this is something. Well, there are 2 points that I need to make here. One is, I think this is the one film that has finally put the stake into the heart of podcasting that we were all hoping for. It's been a good run. Goodbye, everyone. I think people are going to be calling for our heads from now on, because this is the destructive power of podcasting set into motion. Secondly, is that everyone who isn't Michael Myers in this yard begins to howl like a wolf man.
Yeah, there's some sort of suggestion that the mask itself has this kind of otherworldly power over people. And again, I mean, there's maybe one guard in this yard full of barely
they're all chained to cinder blocks. We're really holding on to chain and cinder block technology here as a way to.
The doctor seems mildly concerned that this mask is causing his patients to possibly turn into werewolves. It's a very kind of weird scene that the style of it is not really repeated again later in the movie to the film's benefit, because it's pretty corny.
It is perhaps the lowest point. Well, the second lowest point in the entire thing. And there's one that is related to this that may or may not sink lower, but it does bring up this this element to it that I don't know if we should hold off into it or we should just go into it. But Dr. Satan, which sounds like
I know. I read his name. I look in the Wikipedia page. I'm like, oh God, really? That's his name.
Jesus Christ. First of all, Dr. Satan sounds like a hummus that makes you poop. Secondly, is that it turns out that Dr. Satan has a plan. And I guess the podcasters are a part of this. And this is to eventually free Michael Myers and then track him, passing himself off as a Dr. Loomis style, person who's yelling, no, he's real, he's evil, don't go in there. But he really just wants to get close enough to see what Michael does when he actually kills somebody in an effort to understand him, which seems like maybe his license should be taken away.
Yeah,
I think so.
I mean, it's kind of a little one step further than Dr. Loomis just basically declaring that he's just evil incarnate and there's nothing that could be done about him. And in fact, in a recording of someone doing a slightly passable impersonation of Donald Pleasance is just, basically saying, burn him to ash and salt the earth. That's the only... It's the only way to get rid of him.
You gotta roast him over an open flame, like put him in a pizza oven and just let him go, which is fine. But as far as plans go, this does not seem like a great plan. I don't know really what the point of this part was. Like, eventually, we learned that Smith's Grove is going to be shut down and that Michael will be sent to a maximum security prison, which obviously may not be the best place for him. Who knows what the best place is for him that isn't inside of a large station wagon driving when he's never been taught how to do it. But as a result of this, they stack all of the people on a bus, and lo and behold, the bus had some sort of crash. We're not sure, but it turns out, I think what we're supposed to glean is that Dr. Satan killed or stabbed both the guards with his crazy harpoon pen. It's a literal harpoon, and that he caused this crash so that Michael might escape and that he could then follow him. He's only stopped in catching up to Michael by one thing, which is a dad and his 12-year-old son, who in the scene leading up to this, the son saying, I don't want to go hunting every single weekend. I have a dance class and it's really important to me. This is the best conversation that happens in this film.
And there's a lot of quirky, humorous conversations in this movie that kind of cause some weird tonal shifts from time to time, but they're generally pretty entertaining.
I think they're trying to capture the slice of life elements that are very much a part of the original Halloween. Only those slice of life elements are between main characters. And here we have a lot of them that occur with people we never see again or are about to be killed in tick, tick, tick now.
Right.
And that is a real problem. But lo and behold, they find this bus crash. The dad gets out, says, stay in the car. The kid doesn't listen. And when the kid doesn't listen, gets out of that car, I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, this is nuts. Then he comes out with a gun and I'm going, okay, well, this is interesting. Then he shoots Dr. Satan because he doesn't like hummus and he's spooked, I think. So he shoots Dr. Satan in that sweet Die Hard spot where you don't die, but you're down for a couple seconds, and then gets back into the truck and is quickly killed by Michael Myers. Which, if this movie wanted to amp up the danger levels to the point where in one sequence Michael passes a baby and and the entire audience gasped, anticipating infanticide, because this has been set up like he doesn't care. Like he's just.
I love it. You could see him just sitting there, and he's like, "Nah," and then just walks away.
It's almost like too easy. I mean, at least with the 12-year-old, he got a truck out of the deal. This, like, I'm not getting nothing out of this. But both our audiences had a audible reaction to that, which I don't think would have been there had that other thing not happened. So
Right.
I'll give the movie that. And then we have a very split focus, which I think is another one of the film's problems, because we have this A story, which has to do with Laurie Strode and the aftermath of what happened 40 years ago. Then we have Karen, her daughter, who is trying to essentially lovingly cut Laurie out of her life because she has ruined her childhood, made her paranoid. She has tried to move past this. She's tried to build a life that does not include her crazy mother. And
but does include her incredibly dorky husband.
Played by Toby Huss, who I cannot see without thinking of the Nickelodeon show he was on, The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
And he also did the voice of Cotton Weary on King of the Hill.
True.
He
also has a very good Frank Sinatra, which he did in bumpers for MTV for a long time.
Yeah, he's kind of got a little bit of a poor man's Richard Jenkins thing going on,
does.
Sort of nebbishy, bald middle-aged man who, half the time he's talking and nobody's paying attention to what he's saying.
Well, and they really, I think they're trying to set him up as kind of a lovable doofus, but when you shout in a room in a horror movie, "Oh man, I got peanut butter on my dick," now you're sort of irking into Rob Zombie territory.
Right, where you're kind of verging on to, a little grotesque.
Yes. And I don't know that they were intentionally referencing Zombie with that, but that would feel very at home with the tone that he presented in his two films. It feels unnecessary here. Like all of a sudden vice principals broke out in the middle of this. And you can understand why, because the writer and sometimes director of Vice Principals are involved here.
I just think it's funny that he and again we're gonna spoil this, so you've been warned. He is killed later in the movie, and I don't think anybody at any point after that asks where he is.
No.
And so it reminds me of what was that show where Will Ferrell played the fake author?
Yes,
The Spoils of Babylon. My favorite character in it was Michael Sheen's character, who I believe played Kristen Wiig's second husband. And it just sort of mentions later he died and nobody noticed. And then it's just there's plenty of time for Karen, Judy Greer's character, to ask to stop someone and ask, "Hey, where's Ray? Where's my husband?" But no, she never does.
But he slows Michael down for a half a second. He also makes one of the best discoveries in the entire movie, and we really get to see a full breadth of Michael Myers, indoor, outdoor decorator here, when this police car sort of coasts to a stop right in front of the house. And we learned that the two cops that were inside of it, one has had his throat slashed from every possible way, and the other guy has had his entire head and skull hollowed out, and a flashlight has been inserted inside to make him a human jack-o'-lantern.
That took some time.
That takes, first of all, you have to be a craftsman. Second of all, that takes a lot of time. There's a lot of bone up in there. There's a spinal cord there.
Have you ever? You carved a jack-o'-lantern. You have a kid.
Yes.
Just scraping out of the seeds and all the pumpkin goop. That takes forever.
Yeah. Does he even have the tools to do that? What is he using to do that? Because just a kitchen knife ain't going to help you with all of that stuff. Now I hate this movie. It's not really true. It
is true though that shows an elaborateness to his kills that he never really had in any of the other movies. Whether it's the original or any of the sequels. Usually he was just stab, done, walk away, move to the next move to the next victim, yep, strangled, done, walk away, move to the next victim. He never really, it's sort of like, to fall back on what we're talking about with the reboot of Friday the 13th, is this is like a different style that doesn't fit with the, what we've come to know this character as. And I'm not sure what I think about it, because again, in the rest of the movie, everything's pretty quick and gory, but this one's like, okay, he's just gonna, no name cop, he's just gonna take a lot of time trying to, create this scene. Yeah, there's a scene for this, other character to briefly witness before he's murdered himself.
It is obviously, I think they're trying to give us, again, hearkening back to the Friday the 13th reboot. That movie is trying to be 4 different Friday the 13th. And I think this is trying to be every Halloween movie, every single one. It's like, we got a little something since we took everything out of the rotation, we're going to give you a flavor of it all. And when he stomps on Dr. Satan, which, I mean, that motherfucker did not skip leg day. Let's put this out there right now. Michael Myers did not skip leg day.
That oatmeal budget was high for that special effects crew.
But like, that is something, again, straight out of the zombie version of Halloween. And the grislier elements of this, like when he just pins somebody to the wall, I'll buy that. As far as like how elaborate he gets with like presenting his kills, as elaborate as it gets in the first film is, you have Nancy, who is laid out on a bed with Judith Meyer's gravestone, which he picked up out of the ground. So we should say, for a man with his frame, he is very strong, because he took that out of the ground and then walked it up the fucking stairs by himself. I used to deliver oak furniture, and I can tell you, taking something heavy up the stairs is difficult, and really a partner can help. So that is impressive enough as it is. And then the boyfriend is just put underneath the ghost sheet, and totally is his name, I cannot remember, PJ Souls, is just stuffed into a closet, which I guess is why the same thing happens in The Boy Next Door. Is that a Halloween reference?
Oh, probably. They all reference each other, I think.
Yeah.
And they all think they're so clever when they do it too.
So when it comes to that, like, I can see some amount of precedence in it. Also, it's a very different time. This is between 78 and now. We have seen the gamut of what a slasher movie can do. So presenting a little bit of everything, I'll kind of like, I liked the kills. I liked the end results. I think they did a really good job with the practical effects. And I think they had moments that if I were to open up the very next edition of Fangoria and see the Capo lantern in it, I would go, yeah, that's why they did that. You want that spread in Fangoria magazine. It's a very Fangoria moment. So I guess I'll give it a pass on that. But this also brings up the other element that is very different from the original Halloween. The original Halloween has a linear idea, and that is Michael Myers escapes after he kills his sister. He goes to Smith's Grove. He escapes on the night before Halloween and heads back to Haddonfield. He goes to his own house and eats a dog, and which is not an element I always remember, but when I watched it the other night, I'm like, he eats a fucking dog. That's the impression they're giving. He went to his house and ate a dog. In the middle of that meal, he's interrupted by Laurie Strode, who's delivering keys so that someone else can go and look at that house later, because they're going to sell it to, I don't know, someone who wants to use it as a dynamite experiment space. I don't know what you would use that house for. A place to shoot bottles. But she shows up with the kid that she babysits. And that is why Michael Myers then stalks them for the next hour of the film. He sees a girl who's approximately the same age as his sister, and a kid the approximate age he was when he killed his sister. That makes sense to me. I don't know why people go, what are his motivations? He's fixated on the thing that the biggest incident in his entire life when he killed his sister when he was 6 years old. It's not that fucking hard to put together, but it's very linear.
And he's been, stowed away in this hospital for some 20 odd years.
And so he's running this incident over his mind. So once he fixates on these two, he does stalk them. He goes to her school. He goes to the kids' school. He follows Lori to the place where she's babysitting, which is also where that kid happens to be. And everything that happens in the result is because he just fixates on these three women because Lori came to his house. That's it. So it's very simple. And because of that, we can have these 10-minute sequences where they're just talking in a car about boys. And that's where you get all of the amazing dialogue that Deborah Hill wrote that fleshes out those teen characters to the point where you understand they're really real frenemies. And this, we have Lori, and then you have Karen, and then you have Allison, and then you have Allison's friend, and then you have Dr. Hummas that makes you poop. And you have podcasters, fucking podcasters.
Goddamn podcasters. Jesus.
My happiest moment is when they die in a dirty bathroom. They're the worst kind of people. But I think that's why I feel like some of this doesn't work for everybody, because there's so many. It's not very simple. It's much more complicated. And once you do that, the chances of something not working, dragging the rest down, are much higher.
Well, there's this, there are a few practical questions that I have, like, why did Laurie stay in the town? Which is, I don't know. I mean, personally, I enjoy where I live, but it's something that traumatizing to me happened in a specific place. I would not stay in that place, nor would I certainly wouldn't raise my child there. And there's a certain sort of like odd sense that nobody can leave, which is like, I don't know. I realize the answer is because the script declared it that they can't leave, but why would she not put several thousand miles between her and Haddonfield, Illinois, the first second she got?
Well, this sounds like a very interesting movie, and I think what you should do right now is pop in a copy of 1998's H2O, because that's exactly what you're talking about. Lori moves all the way to Northern California to a rich upper crust prep school to raise her son far away from the events of Haddonfield, Illinois. But it turns out it's not nearly far enough when... Who's this man? Let me look at my notes. Michael Myers escapes from Smith's Grove and manages to get all the way across the fucking country to hunt them down on Halloween night.
Yeah, but that's stupid.
Well, it's stupid, but I haven't told you the best part. And that is LL Cool J plays a security guard who also moonlights as a man who writes erotic urban fiction.
To me, many of the Halloween sequels post part 4 kind of just glom together for me. I can't tell the difference between one or the other. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, 4 and 5 are the same fucking movie. They
basically are.
They're the same movie. And I don't remember, was Resurrection the one that was some sort of like Fear Factor type shit?
Yes, Resurrection is the one in which Buster Rhymes
He does like kung fu. Yeah, because they showed that clip before the movie at the theater I was at. So, but like I only saw H2O like once and Resurrection once. And I was like, I can't remember which one, what happens in which one. But in practical terms, he probably would not be able to successfully murder and hitchhike his way all the way from Illinois to California. Nor do I think he'd know how to to track her down. So I still ask, why did she stay in the the very heart of where her most traumatizing event of her life took place. But I mean, again, that's a completely rhetorical question. It's not answered. No one asks. So it's just my issue alone. And it's a quibble with an otherwise, reasonably enjoyable movie.
Yes, I think it is reasonably enjoyable. For me, it was a solid B. I don't know that this is going to be something I'm going to return to over and over again. It's not an embarrassment. It's not something someone should hide their head in shame over. It's a mostly good movie that has some issues with it. Like you're talking about, it would have been nice if there was a sequence in which Karen confronts Laurie and said, we could have done all of these things. We could have gone somewhere else. We could have run away. We could have done X, Y, and Z. And Laurie go, I couldn't leave. I had to stay here until he came. I'm the only one who can stop him. It would at least explain what her thing is beyond the one sequence, which is in the trailer where she says, I prayed for him to escape every single night, so that when he broke out, I could kill him. Is okay. That's one thing, but it doesn't really explain the need to stay in Haddonfield. It would have been nice. I don't think it would have taken them very long. They could have cut down the dinner sequence of Toby Huss talking about tripping balls with her daughter's new boyfriend's dad, which is interminable.
Yeah, like I said, I will say, in very much in the movie's favor, you can definitely tell that everybody involved in it, David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, all really and for true love the original movie. I mean, you'd see a lot of reboots, particularly in horror, where you could tell the people involved don't care for horror as a genre very much, let alone the original source material that they are remaking or rebooting. But there's a lot of love went into this. But at the same time, I am unsure if they were the right people to make the movie, because again, my biggest issue was near constant tonal shifts. Like, there is a very funny sequence in which Karen's daughter, Allison, her best friend is Vicky. She is babysitting this little boy named Julian, who is very much the MVP of the movie. I agree. He is a delightful, wisecracking child. And he and Vicky get into an argument over Vicky speaking in code to her boyfriend, and Julian knowing that what she's talking about is the boyfriend's going to come over and they're going to smoke weed. And it's hilarious. It's very funny. And then literally like maybe 5 minutes later, Vicky is being brutally stabbed to death. And it's just like, and we never see Julian again. He just runs out of the house. And I'm like, well, I hope he's okay.
He runs down the stairs and tells Dave, don't go up there or you will die. So
yeah,
he's got it pulled together.
Hopefully he's all right. I mean, but and then you've got like an even bigger version of this. You mentioned the cop, the cop-a-lantern, or the skull-a-lantern, whatever you want to call it, are two cops that we never see before. I don't even think they're given names. They are guarding Laurie's house because, of course, when a notorious serial killer is on the loose and going after one specific person, you only need two cops on duty to keep an eye on things. Just one squad car ought to do it. But they have an extended riff on banh mi sandwiches, which again is amusing. It's completely irrelevant to the plot at hand. And then, again, minutes later, a horrific series of murders takes place. It's just, you give me a minute to digest the humor before you are, stomping people's heads in, before you are slashing people to death. And it's very, and again, I'm a big fan of horror comedy. It's when it's done well, it's wonderful. Like Shaun of the Dead, American Werewolf in London, but there's just it's very uneven here.
Yes, because it yo-yos so back and forth, because it is both attempting to be Halloween 78 and it is not really attempting to be Scream. This is just, there are these slice of life comedy moments that I think if they were a line or two would be very acceptable. If you were brought into the middle of that conversation while they were having it, you just cut to the cop car and he goes, a banh mi is a great sandwich. I know you don't do, but I had them make you a banh mi that's just peanut butter and jelly. He goes, I'm not going to eat that. Oh, what's that? I would be fine. That sequence lasts what feels like 5 minutes of them talking, and it throws off the rhythm of what it's trying to do. And I think like April Wolf, a friend of the pod, and her Who Shot Your Partner, Alonso Duralde, in each of their reviews brought up that tonal inconsistency and the superfluousness of some of these characters. And I think some of this, it has to do with having too many plot lines. The babysitting element of this almost feels rote, aside from the characterization. That kid, Vicky, who plays, she's on Runaway. She's very funny at that. The guy who plays Dave, Miles Robbins, was really good in Blockers this year. Like everyone who's a teen in that cast was fucking fantastic. So they're fun actors and shit. But it feels like you don't need babysitter murders in this. And it kind of just throws in teens to have them.
Right. And I think that I don't think Green and McBride are clearly fans of the genre, or at least fans of Halloween, but I don't think either of them are suited to write it well. It was creepy, but not particularly scary. And I think it was more creepy in terms of how certain scenes were shot. Like there was a pretty great tracking scene where he just kind of is walking around, unnoticed. How he's unnoticed, I have no idea. He's an enormous man wearing a creepy mask, but he's just basically just walking into people's houses and just murdering them, and then walking right back out again. It's all one tracking shot, and it's
well, that's the crazy. It isn't just one tracking shot. There's multiple cuts, obvious cuts throughout it. So if they were attempting to go for that long Panaglide, that's what I was expecting, and then became very disconcerted when they constantly cut throughout it, making obvious edits out of the sequence. And that happens throughout the first hour. There's just unnecessary cutting happening.
Yeah.
And you're like, why did they feel the need to truncate drama and dread in order to service more time for people to have funny conversations? It doesn't seem like that was the point of this movie.
And then you have Allison's boyfriend who is set up. Now this could be entirely intentional, and probably if you ask the filmmakers, they would say yes, it absolutely was intentional. Just like Joe Esterhaas claimed the Showgirls was always supposed to be a comedy. Sure, right, okay. That Allison's boyfriend is set up as a very obvious victim that he will get his due from Michael Myers, because he just again, a very tonal shift, just turns out to be kind of an asshole who throws her cell phone into a bowl of pink Cool Whip, it looks like.
It almost looks like cheese, like a bowl of loose melted cheese.
Or like a bowl of the stuff or something. It was like this thick, viscous material.
It's like someone made a punch bowl of roux.
Or like just filled it with shaving cream or something. And I'm like, oh, you can get your phone out of there. Come on. just reach in there, wipe it off. You'll be sound as a pound. Come on.
Yeah, that family's just made of cell phones. I'm telling you, if you come home and you say, my boyfriend, who's kind of a dick, threw my phone in this vat of nacho cheese. And I said, well, did you get it? Do you think we can fix it? And they said, oh, I left it there. That's when we're going to have real problems, because I can't control your douchey boyfriend, but I can control whether or not you reach into that vat of cheese and grab that cell phone and maybe wipe it off with a paper towel.
Yeah, I fully expected there would be a moment where he would show up later and try to apologize or just try to see her. And then, Michael Myers would show up and dispatch him in one horrifying way or another. Nope. He just disappears. We never hear from him again. He's never mentioned again. He's presumably still at that dance. Whenever. Actually, it's actually in the future from when we're recording this, because it was supposed to be Halloween of this year.
Yeah, he's probably dancing the night away with that tiger lady.
But instead we kill off poor Oscar. I
don't think, is it poor Oscar?
I feel kind of bad for Oscar. Oscar had his moment, and then he immediately realized that he should not have done what he did.
True. I will give you that he, once he realizes, immediately apologizes, but he also plays it off like, I'm drunk and all the girls at the dance got me horny. He begins to make excuses other than taking personal responsibility for thinking that wonderful fuckboy attitude of, I'm a boy and you are a girl within my dick's range, so you must want it.
I will say that he gives, not since Scotty in Boogie Nights has someone given the most convincing, I'm sorry, I'm really drunk right now, I'm sorry. Because who among us has not uttered the phrase, I'm sorry, I'm really drunk right now? after doing or saying something embarrassing.
That's very, very true. Absolutely. 100% true. And his death, I think, is one of the best horror sequences in the entire thing, which revolves around Michael Myers and a motion detector light and him assuming that the yard that he's in, that it's actually the homeowner that he's talking to. And it turns out to be Michael Myers. I think that sequence is really well done. And it's certainly one of the best body reveals in the entire movie. But
yeah, that was another one that the whole audience went,
because you think it's bad, but you don't think it's that bad, and it turns out to be real bad. So I like that part. But are those teen characters necessary? Are they a should they have been the main focus and Laurie Strode been more of a Loomis character who's just haunting around the periphery and she's the woman that people don't talk about? I feel like if these two guys weren't the best people to write this, they should have damn well had at least one woman in that room.
Yeah.
Because that is the advantage that Carpenter has, is that he has Deborah Hill. And she makes those teen characters sing and sound like real people and women with complicated high school relationships. And this kind of skims that. Everything is played off of casting it well. Because I think all those teens are cast well and they're good actors. I found their deaths genuinely, affecting. Unlike, I think April and Alonzo were like, what's the fucking point? I liked them, but I found the shifts of trying to play every generation of the Strodes. That's where it's like, one of these things has to fucking give.
Yeah, I mean the everything with Laurie and Karen is a completely different movie from everything with the teenagers. Yes. That's where all the drama is, and all the horror and slasher elements come in where in the B plot with all the teenagers, and then eventually they kind of come together, not always all that effectively, but
Well, this squeeze play, I think, works the worst for Judy Greer. And Judy Greer is a very appealing actress who seems to now be condemned to roles in which she scolds people for their inadequacies.
She's constantly fretting. I don't think I've ever seen she should, if they ever do another Popeye, she needs to play Olive Oil. Because she's like, oh goodness, and it's just, that's all she does. She frets in every role, and she's usually like kind of the humorless ex-wife or the humorless daughter-in-law or the humorless mom, and it's just, it's like, get this woman some better parts.
Yeah, and I will say this: I did not anticipate how very satisfying the end, specifically with her, would be.
That was a nice surprise.
That was a really nice surprise. And did I laugh and guffaw out loud at the various original Halloween references when Laurie Strode, goes over backwards off of a second-story balcony and lands in the grass, and then Michael looks back over and she's gone.
It's even got the exact same stinger. Yeah.
The exact same. I mean, and that's the other part that we should get to, is that John Carpenter needs to do more movie music. I don't need him to direct movies. He doesn't want to. But I do need him to do more movie music because he's really, really fucking good at it. If no one has noticed up until now, he has my seal of approval. Me, a Hollywood nobody. And the sequence where Michael finally discovers that there's something hidden underneath the kitchen island, and then she comes out from behind the shadows in that slow light reveal, like Michael did in the first one. I adored that. That is pure geek food. And I can see someone who honestly takes cinema much more seriously than me going, Jesus fucking Christ. But it worked for me.
Oh yeah, like I said, it was made, for all of its flaws, I genuinely believe it was made with love. I think it's just, it was made by people who maybe don't have the chops to write horror. And I'm not trying to say like, it takes a special kind of person to write horror. I mean, it kind of does, but I mean, horror isn't comedy. It's, just because you are good. And I don't think I've seen any David Gordon Green's other movies, but I believe this, I'm pretty sure this is horror, first time for horror for both of them. And I get the sense they're not entirely comfortable with it. Like, do you see? I think you could tell all the wisecracks and all the jokes were written by Danny McBride. It just has that feel. And then it just, like I said, it very much feels like two separate movies kind of glommed together.
It could have used more focus. The one thing you absolutely get for sure when you watch the Carpenter original is that it is very confidently constructed. Everything is intentional. He only allows you to see what he wants you to see, and he does not allow you to see anything else. It is almost, I would put it right next to something like Taxi Driver in terms of pure directorial muscle on screen, because everything is focusing you on the exact mood moment that you should be focused on and nothing else. It's hypnotizing in that way. And I think David Gordon Green is a fine filmmaker, and this is just beyond his current reach. And so this also makes me very glad he did not get to do that Suspiria remake that he wanted to do.
Oh, good heavens. Yeah, no. I mean, I have very high hopes for the version of it's coming out soon, but I don't, after watching this, I don't think that he would be a good fit for that at all.
The other element that I think we've talked about almost everything else, but the other thing is the twist. Let's talk about the twist. And that is, we talked about it briefly, in that Dr. Hummas that makes you poop has decided that he is the one who frees Michael. And he reveals this to the local sheriff, who's the old hand who was there in 78 as well. And he reveals this in a villain's monologue. While Allison and a currently passed out from being hit by a car, Michael Myers, is in the back seat. And it makes no sense to me. And it nearly sank the film for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it was just, it was just so forced and silly. And this doctor is, like, he's obsessed with getting Michael to say something. He just wants to hear him talk. And I don't know, you would think, I mean, for one thing, you would think that after 40 years of obsessing about this, someone might have taken him off the job at some point. The whole movie, the movie kind of suggests that he's the only one running the place at the psychiatric hospital. And I realize that is definitely a horror and suspense movie trope, that, one person, usually someone with sinister motivations, runs a psychiatric hospital all by himself. He doesn't have a staff of other doctors. He doesn't have anybody he has to answer to. I mean, he might as well be paying the rent and electricity on the place by himself. And that's I don't even want to say that's how it used to be. I don't think that's ever how it was. I don't think, there's ever been a time when a hospital filled with potentially hundreds of mentally ill people, some of them violently mentally ill, has been, fully overseen and run by one individual person.
Yeah, even Loomis had a hierarchy that he had to talk to. He had a bureaucracy that he was running up against. That's made very evident in the 78 original. So this is an odd sort of tacked on thing where this was his plan all along, and he has a harpoon pen, and it just feels like they needed a way to get Allison taken back to her grandmother's house. Yeah, this is the only way to do it.
It's a little silly enough that, it kind of goes one step further with Loomis being obsessed with the idea that he is pure evil. The whole, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, it takes it one step further with this doctor just absolutely spending 40 years, wanting to know what makes this guy tick. And it occurs to me, is he the only person in the entire place that's killed people? because I mean, if you watch like shows like Mindhunter, serial killers like to talk. So I mean, that's the whole point of that show, Mindhunter, that all you need to do is get these people talking and they will tell you whatever you want to hear. And I find it a little hard to believe that it has to be this guy. It has to be this person, that he's got to know what he was possibly thinking when he was killing all these people. That's kind of pushing the limits of plausibility, enough as it is. But then it turns into, oh wait, I want to personally know what it feels like to kill someone. And it's like, well, that took a hard left turn.
What it would have been really fun is if he goes, all I want him to do is to talk. And if Michael goes, well, all you had to do was ask. So anyways, I really want to kill women. Like for like 10 minutes of a monologue of him where he uses the voice you never expected him to have, and he goes, I don't know, like I just see them with their soft bodies and their long hair. Something makes me want to stab them.
And he's just got,
but I hate guys too. It's like it's kind of even for me. Like I like stabbing everybody.
He's just kind of sitting there with like a cigarette, and finally getting it off his chest after all these years.
It's really hard to stay silent and be all mysterious and whatnot, but I really like talking to you. I think you should have asked me earlier.
Yeah, just because you're gonna come back, right? You're gonna talk to me again, please, doctor. Oh yeah, no, okay. But yeah, it's just like I did have a little forehead slapping. Really, we're gonna do this. Really. Luckily, it does not last very long. You know, even Michael seems as exasperated as the audience does at this turn of events.
I did like when Michael is finally trapped in the pizza oven of death, that he looks up through the bars at this threesome of Strodes, and he kind of has a look in his face like, really? All right.
This how's gonna go?
Yeah. They've burned me a couple times now, and it really hasn't worked so far, but okay.
Well, no,
and we never see him.
He was not burned in the first one. It was, if you're only going based on the first one, he was not burned until the
that's
second one.
very, very true. So
it would have been kind of great though if, like, you know, kind of shows him lowering the flame and he kind of gives the thumbs up like Terminator 2.
He reached through the bars with his fist on fire with a thumbs up.
Exactly. He got me this time.
Boo, boo, boo. Gives the finger guns. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that pretty much rounds it out. Of course, we could always choose your own deathventure of all the deaths that we saw throughout this movie, and there are many and varied. If you had to choose one to die from, which one would you choose and why?
Oh, I mean, definitely the showstopper, the one that, you know, got my audience both, you know, gasping and you know, murmuring in pleasure was Dr. Satan getting his head stomped in. That was pretty gnarly. that was pretty gnarly.
Yes, I listen. It's much better. The one I would not choose is be stabbed in the neck by a harpoon pen. Absolutely off the table for me. I would probably also take the head stomping. It's probably the best way to go. I do not want Michael Myers' fixation on anti-gravity deaths has become a real thing. Like, he only did it one time in that first movie, but he likes to suspend people by stuff. I was really hoping for a get bunked in this movie, and it didn't happen for me. So
yeah, this was like very surprisingly sexless slasher movie, which is fine. But I mean, you know, not an exposed boob in sight. I mean, you know, possibly vaguely implied that perhaps Vicky and her boyfriend might have sex at some point. I think it was suggested that he'd gotten the tattoo to signify that they were going to lose their virginity together. I think.
I think so.
All right, I guess that's okay. Yeah. But I mean, that's you know, that's about it. It was pretty puritanical as far as that's concerned.
Mm-hmm. So that's a plus. I'll give it that. Yeah, I would totally get my head stomped. That's my Choose Your Own Deathventure. Because I love Dr. Hummus Makes You Poop that much. He's my favorite character. So that pretty much does it for this episode. Don't worry, the body count will continue. We'll be back with more Friday the 13th, 2009 coming up. Before we go, of course, Gina, want you thank our glorious supporters on Patreon.
This time around, I want to say thank you to Anna, Tisa Gilliard, Daniel Reeferscheid, I really hope I'm pronouncing your last name right, and Benjamin White. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. Of course, if you would like to support us on Patreon, and we would love that, go to patreon.com and look up, or patreon.com/killbykill, and you will find us. If you are unable to spare the change, hey, we get it. time in this economy, support a podcast. There are other ways to support us. You can help us out on social media. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram at Kill by Kill Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Kill by Kill Pod, and retweet us when we have a new episode. That's very helpful. And of course, you can read all of Gina's, most of Gina's review on GinaRadcliffe.com. And also, you just had a big run of screenings at the Brooklyn Horror Fest.
I did. I saw 5 movies. Hopefully they will all be picked up for general distribution. I saw Level 16, The Rusalka, Empathy Inc., Antrim, the world's deadliest movie, which probably our listeners will probably find the most enjoyable, and Tower: A Bright Day, which is a very spooky Polish movie that's very similar to Good Night Mommy, which was another creepy kid movie. Yeah, so you can find my reviews of those on alcohollywood.com.
Okay. And of course, until next time, for myself and Gina Radcliffe, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
This is Creepy, a podcast dedicated to sharing the most famous, chilling, and disturbing creepypastas and urban legends in the world. Whether these stories truly happened or are simply fabrications is for you to decide.
Gateway of the mind, expressionless, smile, no one, dead Bart, Robert the Dog, the Ray, Russian sleep experiment, and more.
Creepypastas are the urban legends of the digital age. The name comes from copy, paste, stories that have been passed around the internet person to person, each making changes, sharing their own take. When that take is horror, the creepypastas begin to take hold. Not all creepypastas come from multiple sources. Many have no known point of origin at all. Author credits are listed when known. For more information, including pictures and videos of the stories told on this podcast, or to suggest stories for future episodes, please visit us at CreepyPod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or email